So, hey everyone, I'm sorry that there was some audio issues there. Martin had just introduced me and said, you know, you should join OWASP if you're not already a member. I'm sure he'll leave some links in the chat to kind of get you started if you're not familiar with what OWASP is. But you should be able to hear me. You can't hear me either. Let me know if you can not hear me, because it says I should. But yeah, he was just talking about what OWASP was. There'll be some links in the chat soon on kind of what they can hear you. Great, excellent. I don't usually stream. I usually make videos. So great, excellent. So my name is Katie. I'm assuming since you're on my YouTube channel, you likely know who I am. I am a full-time PhD student, a part-time educational YouTuber, an occasional bug bounty hunter, and it kind of ends up in this pyramid of things I do and how I spend my time. So yeah, if you're not familiar with me, I make YouTube videos here on this YouTube channel. Today, OWASP Santa Barbara has taken over, as they have very kindly invited me to speak about how to live hack and live hacking APIs. Oh, audio's left-sided. I'm very sorry for all of the technical difficulties, guys. It's, unfortunately... Alright, I should just be able to add a balance. I'm sorry, I can't fix the audio at the moment. So you have to deal with the fact I'm only on your left side. I'm very sorry. Unfortunately, this is what happens when you don't stream and you make videos. Oh, actually, sync offset volume tracks. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be an easy way to fix this. I tell you what, if anybody in the chat can fix this and tell me how to fix it on Streamlabs OBS, I will send you some stickers. Let me know if you can find out a way to balance it. So with that, I'm just going to get started to actually live hacking something, because that's what I'm good at. I'm not good at streaming stuff. I'm good at live hacking stuff. So, right, let's get started. This is my screen. And you might be familiar with Generic University. Now, Generic University, it's a very prestigious university. And, you know, it has this great kind of IT infrastructure that totally wasn't made on GeoCities. So, what is this? We can kind of see it's a view your grade system for Generic University. Now, okay, what does that mean? What are we going to do? So this is going to be interactive. So I'd like you guys to help me out here and tell me how we should hack this website. Because if you've seen my videos and you're a member of OWASP, you must know already how to hack stuff, right? So with that in mind, how do we want to start doing this, folks? How do we want to actually start approaching hacking this website? We have Burp Suite Professional here. You don't need Professional to start hacking stuff, but we use it because when I typed in Burp, this was the first thing that came up rather than the Community Edition I have. So we've got kind of our standard Burp setup. If we go to Target, we can start to add this to our scope. So the chat is rather delayed, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to I haven't repurchased Burp, actually. This Burp is actually my old one. I'm about to run out, like in a few days. So I'm first going to add this to our scope, and just to make it a little bit easier to see, because we don't really care about all the other stuff Firefox is sending, really. So this is what we've got. How do we want to start hacking this? How do we want to start approaching, like, looking at this website? What do you want to do? Recon stuff. Okay, great. We have recon. We have a login. So what kind of recon do we want to do? Where are we going to put our recon? Are we going to just look for generic files? Because if you see my videos, you know that's not necessarily the best way to do it. So what we have access to here is we kind of see a login page. We've got this under construction. We've got contact IT. And we've got report a security vulnerability. And that's all we can see. So what do we want to do? How do we want to approach this? If we look here, we can see we've got an API of some description. So we've got API users 6, which is loading on the web page. And if we look at the response, we can see we're getting some JSON back. Web directory busting. Yeah, we could go in here and do a web directory search. We can use the easiest way to do that on Burp is going to be to send it to intruder. So we'll send it to intruder. So we've got here, what we want to do is we want to add our directory. Add that to our scope. And then we're doing web directory. What are we actually going to put in here? Check for a robots.txt. It doesn't have a robots.txt. What kind of directories do we expect to see in this? Try changing a 6 to a 7. That's a great place to start as well. Let's do some directory stuff first. So what kind of payloads do we want to check? We can, check for, say, an admin. We might want to check for, we've got not a lot there we can kind of base it on and what to look for. We can probably download a list if we want to look for a list of kind of likely web directory endpoints. If I go to sec lists and we go to fuzzing. Oh no, we want to go to discovery. Web content. I think that one gives us common PHP file names, PHP fuzz, passwords fuzz. Oh, here we go. We've got some draft words. You want to just use the busted directory list? Advanced properties it is, okay. So there is no, I cannot see what you were talking about on this thing. How about FFUF? So we're going to use Burp's inbuilt one because it's a bit easier. Brute force is better. You want to try login? Okay, so let's go to changing. Let's look at the API. This is API hacking demo. Let's start here and do a simple change 6 to a 7. And would you know, we get something back. Now, here's a question for everybody. We can see another user. Is that going to be a security risk? Do you think? Do you think this is something where we would report it if we saw this in the wild? I'm after people's thoughts here. Because we can look here and we can see, okay, we can change a 6 to a 7. Now, we can also see that this structure is very similar to any kind of API hacking. So if we go in here and we go to there, if this is a RESTful API, this will return every single user, because we know that the structure of a RESTful API query is going to be get API users. So if we send that, we can see we get a bunch of stuff back. Now, here is a question for everybody. Is this a bug? Do you think? Do you think being able to see every single user is a bug? Would you report it? Would you, contact security? Like, we have a little vulnerability reporting thing here. Yep, idle. So, although this is an idle, You're absolutely right. We probably shouldn't have access to it. We don't own that resource. The problem is we'd probably do that as information disclosure, and that wouldn't necessarily count as a vulnerability. So one thing that is kind of interesting is a lot of time in bug bounties, email addresses and names usually won't be considered like really personal information. So oftentimes it won't necessarily be a very high level, informative. It's going to be an informative. I would like to see if we can see the admin user. Okay, so how do we know which one of these is an admin? We've got 7 users here. Which one is the admin? I'm going to just paste this in the chat for everybody. I don't know if it won't let me send JSON. Sad. So yeah, we've got this big list here. Number 0 or 1. So number 1 here is Alexander Corwin. And we don't have a number 0. The impact of showing emails is pretty low because most people don't consider emails private information. But yeah, so this probably wouldn't be an IDOR. But let's do something a little bit more interesting. Now, we're dealing with a system that has university-related stuff. And we're dealing with an API. There is likely more API endpoints here. So let's go and find them. So we can go here, we can clear it, we can change users, add our little simoleon signs, and we can go to our payloads. Now, what kind of API endpoints might... I'll move this over here so you can see it a bit better. What API endpoints might this thing have? Hard to see if I look for someone with a unique role ID. It's 6. Yeah, so 6 is our admin user because it's role ID 1. Everybody is right. What kind of API endpoints might we want to see in a university system? So it's all we know about it is we know it's generic university. We've got view your grades. We've got a login system. We've got some kind of made by under construction. We've got contact IT and report a security vulnerability. What do you think we should look for? Like what kind of API endpoints? Classes, yep, let's add that to the list. Seclist API list. Now, if you watch my API recon video, you will know that actually when doing API testing, it's better to create custom lists because often they are like really specific to a certain system. So, for example, you know, you're not going to necessarily see grade, classes, admins. You're not necessarily going to see... You know what I should do? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so people can see it a little bit better because I think it's difficult to see at the moment. Can you tell I don't live stream very often? Oh, whoops. So we've got teachers, marks, teachers, marks, students, year. Okay, let's start with that. So we will go start attack. Now, instantly, we've got like a bunch of 404s, which mean they don't exist. And we've got a 401. So what we're looking for when we do this kind of API testing is we're looking for something different. Here we have, you know, our base request, which is just API users, and we know that works. Now, we're looking for something anomalous when we're API hacking. So seeing this here with a 401 is super interesting because seeing we're not authorized, that is like should set off alarm bells to us, like being like, why aren't we authorized? What should we be able to see? So here is a question. What is the difference between authorization and authentication? If you want to like give answers in the chat, what is the difference between the two, and in this case, why is this error message kind of bad? What is this error message telling us? I'll just post this in the chat so it's a bit clearer in case you cannot see. And this one, I can't push the entire request because it won't let me, but why is this a super bad error, and what is it telling us about this API endpoint? And we can see here we've got grades and classes, but I'll talk about that in a second. Having rights versus identity. Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Being unauthorized means that well, basically it's about being logged in, essentially. You can think about it that way. While unauthenticated, wow, brain. Yeah, exactly. Auth is to log in, authorization is what you can see or do after login. Thank you for helping me out there. So what do we need to access this? Well, it's kind of difficult. We can't really see. Should we have an account, or do we need to do we have to be an admin user? But we can see grades and classes. Now, if we look here, we can see every single grade for every single user. Is that a bug? Should we report this vulnerability? We can see all the grades for all the users, and when they were given to, and what class it's for, when it was created, and the user ID associated with it. What do we think? Also, I'm very sorry about the delay. I know it makes it difficult. Especially because I'm not that good at live streaming. There's a certain amount of ease in making videos where you can just edit out all of the bad bits. Informative unless you can change them. Okay, excellent. Right. So I wouldn't say this is informative actually, but we should try changing them. So, but for the record, the reason why I think that this wouldn't be informative is because being able to do something like see somebody's grade might be considered quite personal information, especially in the context of a university, because you'd be able to see who's failing and who's not failing. But yeah, I would say it's a privacy concern. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of like discussion about what would count as the privacy concern there. But let's take a look. Let's have a look at what, who was it who mentioned it? Show Me said, let's try and see if we can change a grade. So, we can see an individual grade by doing API grades 1. So let's do a put request. So we need to go here, do content type, application JSON. Oh, it's a lowercase a. And then we need to put in here ID grade. So a put request is to change something. So when we look at APIs, we're often thinking of like CRUD, which is create, read, update, delete. Whenever you test APIs for every single resource, you should be thinking, can I create a resource as another user? Can I read a resource as another user? Can I update somebody else's resource, or can I delete them? So instantly we want to check, okay, we can read it, we might be able to create it, but can we also now change it? So let's have a go and change that to 56. And would you look at that? We can. Now, do you think changing someone else's grade might be count as a bug? What do we think? Do we think being able to change someone else's grade to whatever we want, that might be considered a bug? What do you think? The keyboard I have is a Keychron, yes, I think that's how you pronounce it, K2 with blue switches. It is the only mechanical keyboard that both has a UK layout and works on Macs. Yeah, this is 100% a bug. Being able to change somebody's grade to whatever you want is, like, for sure a vulnerability. You should definitely report this if you see this. It is a classic idle. This is 100% exactly what we might think of as an unauthenticated idle. That is that we're not logged in, but we can still change somebody else's resource. Now, something really important to note is when we do this, we might actually get an error that basically forces us to log in. Now, if we look back at our little thing here, this one, we can see that this error here, we've got a 401, and we got unauthorized and a little message that said unauthenticated. Now, the question is, could we then get an IDOR on this by just creating an account? So let's have a look at that. Let's create an account. So how can we create an account? How are we going to actually create an account? How are we going to approach that? Because essentially what we want to do now is test for more endpoints. We want to see if we can access that. We want to see if we can access that admin page. And we might need to be able to create an account first. Now, we don't know if we're actually unauthorized, we need an admin account, or if we are indeed unauthenticated, that is that we need an account. So, what do we think? How are we going to create an account on this? How do you want to create an account? Do we want to look and see if we can get into somebody else's account? What do we think? Could put a new user? Yeah, absolutely. Again, create, update, delete. One of the things we can do here is we can do we go in here, put this in there, I'm not writing content type application JSON. By the way, when you're testing APIs, it's really important to make sure when you're using JSON you set the content type, because when you test manually, you may not be able to find it. So let's go in here. We'll go in here, we'll put in, we don't need that stuff. We'll keep an admin account, because that would be useful. And we'll make our account, I don't know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'll remove the ID as well. So if we post to this endpoint, we can now create a user. And, oh, okay. We're now looking at this and we're seeing an SQL error. Field name doesn't have a default value. Oh, I know why it is. It's because it has to be a request, I think, because it's not a put. Yeah, let's do it this way. And this is what API hacking looks like. It's a lot of pressing random buttons and hoping for a different result. That should now work, because we're not a content type JSON. I don't know why it's not working. But you should be able to do this. I've evidently messed up my my code here. But here is a question. Do you think showing the SQL error might be a bug? What do we think? Do we think you should be able to see this? And if so, would you report it? I'm curious about what you guys think here and what you think we can kind of do with this. Yeah, this is a good time where we might want to try testing something like SQL injection. I will tell you that this is built on Laravel, and that simple SQL injection will not work on Laravel. Though I did kind of do a little sneaky thing that I'll show a bit later. Let's see what we're doing on time. Oh yeah, we got loads of time. So we can't create a user this way because we're getting an SQL error. And actually, people are saying not report it. Someone's saying yes, report it. If I saw this, I would report it. Now, this is for one simple reason. That means that this website is in debug mode. And obviously, you can see here, it's exposing my file system. You can see here that I'm putting it under users, my name, documents, GitHub, generic university. And it's actually exposing quite a lot of how the application was built. Although this is kind of generic Laravel stuff. Yeah, but showing errors like this is something that really shouldn't be visible. In Laravel, there's actually a setting here, if I show you what it looks like in an env, where you can set here whether or not it's in debug mode. So the fact that it's in debug mode while also being live would be an absolute report, because there's so much information about the underlying things here that an attacker could use. Even if you could say, like, access, couldn't necessarily exploit this, I would still keep this as a bug. Anything where you're seeing stuff like this, I would probably report. especially because we're seeing some about the file information. Right, so we can't make an account this way because we've got this lovely error. What other ways can we make an account or log into an existing account? You know, we still do have access to, if we go back here, we still can see this. But what's the problem? Why can't we log into this account? What is the issue here? Seeing if anybody can tell me why you can't log into this account and why we can't necessarily hack it very easily. And also how we could hack it easily. This is a far more like advanced kind of hacking. And I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to think about like super advanced stuff, but I'm just kind of curious if anybody can tell me what our approach might be to look at it. Yeah, the email isn't verified. What could that mean? What do you think we could do with an unverified email address? Yeah, password. Okay, how are we going to change the password? So we can go into here and do a put request to this and try and do password. But why do you think that won't work? We don't have the, yeah, exactly. So one thing we can try and do is we can try and put the password. Now, that won't necessarily work because, you know, we can't, there's no password coming out. That doesn't necessarily mean that will go in. And even if it does, it may not get encrypted in the same way. So what we want to do is exactly what people are saying. You know, we want to reset the password as L3N said, and then try and change the email address. So we could go here, we could go email and change this to an email that we own. So our email at gmail.com. And we can see we've changed the email there. Now, if that was our email, we can go to login. We can go to forgot your password. We can put in our email address here and then reset this person's password. Now, because the username, the user email isn't actually verified, this might be a case of not even needing like the previous email. Perhaps if it was verified, it might need something else. So this is always something to keep an eye out for. So yeah, we can reset it. This won't actually work though, because this isn't actually connected up to an email server, shockingly enough. But you know, sometimes you've got to think like not harder but smarter. We have a login. Do we just have a registration form that we just can't see? This is where recon really comes in handy, because you know we might want to look also here for, you know, admin. Oh, that's interesting. So if we look at admin, we're getting a redirection. So again, something to kind of keep a lookout for is that we can't access admin yet. So let's register an account. My name is HHHH. Do I already have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Actually, I think this requires full from memory. Yeah, 8 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Right. Data. So we have an account. So could you do anything with config admin.php? Yeah, that's something I would probably look into. Right, so we now have an account. So we can go back to what we were looking at, which is this admin stuff here. Send to repeater, and now see if that works. And again, we're getting unauthorized. So even though, oh wait, actually we forgot to replace the cookie. Proxy HTTP history. This is the new cookie. Now we're logged in. We'll be able to go here, replace the cookie. And there we go. So now we're logged in. We have access to these admin endpoints. Do you think this is a bug, folks? Do you think this is something we should look into? What do you think? So for kind of a summary of what we did, we create an account. We haven't got an admin account, we've got a regular account. And what we've done, essentially, logged in and accessed this endpoint. Now, what this endpoint is then showing us is a bunch of other stuff that we can do with this API. This is some documentation. But here's the kind of thing, is the only difference between what we had before and what we have now is actually that we have an account. We don't have an admin account, we just have an account. So what do you think? Do you think this is a bug? Do you think we might want to report this one? And by the way, just because this is generic university, this is like not necessarily a CTF, it's something I use for demos quite a lot. These are actually bugs I found in the wild before. They're very much based off of real bugs that I found. Yeah, I changed, it is changing the cookie, yeah. It's done the Laravel session, but it's also got the CSRF token, I guess. But yeah, so what do we think? Do you want to report this one, folks? So I realise the lag might be a bit much, especially because YouTube is not very great at live streaming stuff. I should probably live stream on Twitch more. So, can we change your account to an admin account? Well, that would be the next question, wouldn't it? So we can access this, which I would say is definitely an IDOR. This is a classic authentication IDOR where you just have to log in. You don't have to log into an admin account. You just have to log in. Check for horizontal and vertical escalation. Absolutely. What we want to do now is see if we can escalate our account. We want to see, can we get a privilege escalation from this? Now, before, when we were looking at this part here, we were looking at the role IDs, and somebody very cleverly, before I mentioned it, said role ID is likely our admin. So, okay, we've got a bunch of users here. Let's go back to getting all of the users to find out what our user ID is. Oh, whoops. So our user ID here is user ID 8. We do this, go here, role ID 1, go back to our little endpoint here, and user ID 1. Now, we've essentially escalated this bug to not just account takeovers, but now privilege escalation in as well. So we've not just got like one kind of bug here, we actually can use this to solve multiple bugs. Again, we've got that role ID 1. So now we're an admin user. So let's have a look at that like nice little thing here. We've sent that to repeater where it was sending us a 302. Let's go to here, go to /admin, and we can see we've got access to the admin dashboard now and it's not redirecting us. So we've got these security vulnerabilities here, and we've got some vulnerability information. Now we know this takes information from likely this part. We can test this by just going email address, do that, report. If we go to the admin panel now, we can go here. What vulnerability should we be looking for next? That we could possibly look for. Just kind of curious here what you might be looking for next. We know we can access a admin dashboard that takes data from the non-admins, or yeah, from the report a security vulnerability page that we had before. What might we want to look for? What do you think? So this is the page we've got. XSS, exactly. We want to look for cross-site scripting, but specifically we want to be looking for blind cross-site scripting, because blind cross-site scripting is information with bicycles. Because blind cross-site scripting will allow us to put the payload in and get the admin cookie out. So here is an application called Xss Hunter. Now what we can do from this is we can copy this payload, and you'll see how we're going to use it. Now we're going to go back to our web application and just pop it in here. just do a little script tag. Now, usually we do an alert 0, but we can do something way more interesting with this. We go to report, and now we go back to our admin dashboard, and we go to security vulnerabilities. We can see we've got another vulnerability. But if we go back into here, what we should find is actually this is fired. And we should be able to then steal the cookie from the user. Yeah, blind cross-site scripting. Let me just do a script alert 0 here. Oh, I know why this is where it's supposed to go. Yeah, make sure whenever you do cross-site scripting that you tell it everything. Your name is alert01, your age is alert01, everything is alert01. Okay, so if we go to admin, now we should be able to fire off that vulnerability. Yeah, so now that's just fired in our Xss Hunter because I saw it fire. If we refresh this, we can see the page it hit. And we can see the screenshot here of what it looks like. But here's what we can also see, right? We have information about the origin, but we also have the cookies here. Okay, so if we log out and we're like, we're a new user, might use a Firefox container here. So we're not logged in on this session. Go back to proxy. We go here. So what should happen, because this is a different session, if we go to admin, we should see that error message that says, we're being redirected. But we know now what the cookie is by doing Xss Hunter. If we go in here, put in, where was the other cookie? There should have been 2 cookies. Put in the cookies. Oh, it's not doing it properly. Come on. Let me just check that one because I want to try and do that again. I don't want to accidentally delete it. Center repeater, go here, go to admin. No, that won't work. Yep, so cookie. And we should now be able to steal the cookies. Oh, it's not working, but you can then steal the cookies via this interface. We can also see the DOM as well. And we can look and see where the injection point is. It's a very cool tool, especially when testing real websites. So there's other ones you can do. You can see I've used this on some other web pages, but I can even go to like this report, for example, and we can see all the way down here we've got cookies, we've got the full page with all the HTML in it. We can see the origin, we can see the IP address, we can see the vulnerable page, we've got everything. Now, that way what we could do is we could use that to access an admin account, right? We can get the cookies from Xss Hunter, or even better, we can look, see what the API looks like, and start to do stuff like delete things. But, we saw this request before, and people mentioned, I wouldn't report it unless we could delete it. Now, when you're doing bug hunting, you're not really supposed to do anything destructive, but let's delete everything. So, now everything is gone, and that's it. That's the demo. We can see that all of the users are now gone, apart from our user. So, thank you very much. That's 50 minutes. If you would like to ask me questions, please do go ahead and ask any questions you have. I hope you found this demo interesting or useful or helpful. I realise I'm very sorry for the fact that it's kind of a mess. It's like 2 AM for me. I'm a little bit tired. It's been a long week. But I hope that this has been useful for everybody. I'll put my face up on screen. There we go. So any questions, please do ask them or forever hold your peace. Yeah, I'm very sorry for the delay as well. I don't stream normally. I'm very, very sorry. Let me just make sure I've got everything up. I will probably, I think this was a little bit rough. I might try and do this again sometime. That was perhaps a little bit better. A little bit more professional, I promise. Oh, thank you very much. I had a great time at security. Yeah, it was a really nice chat, and it's always good to speak to other hackers and see how we differ. Any suggestions on Bugcrowd? Go hack on Bugcrowd. Bugcrowd are great. The submission process is great. The triage people are great. I recommend nearly every bug bounty platform. My favourite one is HackerOne. I primarily hunt on HackerOne. Bugcrowd has some amazing staff, and they are really responsive if you have issues. Poor Codingo's DMs are very full of other people, but if you wanted to contact people you have an issue, you can always DM him and speak to him on Twitter. Integrity, they sponsor my videos. They are such nice people, and I say that genuinely, like really kind, really responsive, like super active in the community. Is Burp Suite usually used in bug hunting? Yes. Burp Suite or OWASP Zap, as somebody mentioned at the very start of the stream, are the two main tools that we use. But to be honest, it doesn't necessarily have to be these two tools. What we're really doing is we want a way to inspect requests before they're sent and to change them. So any tool you use that can be kind of used to inspect requests is fine. There are some new projects coming out at the moment which are open source that are all able to be used. Right. Forever holding my peace. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything, even if you don't have anything relevant. It's great to see live demos. Yeah, I think it's great to see live demos as well. I think it's really interesting to see how someone actually approaches a target and see how they hack stuff. It's definitely something I want to do more of in the future. GraphQL. I'm actually working on a GraphQL video right now. So my video will be a very good resource when it's finished. If you want a really good place to start, the Hacker 101 CTF has some really great levels for getting you used to GraphQL. And then the API security newsletter is also really good for finding out what kind of vulnerabilities they are. I have quite a few on GraphQL. And I'm also going to recommend Farah's video. She did a video on GraphQL. How to differentiate between IDOR... Oh, sorry, let me go this by order. What to look for when finding bugs. What I would do is I would learn the signs of a few beginner bugs. Think IDORs, information disclosure, cross-site scripting. So you can recognize when you see them and work out how to exploit them. Things that I keep in mind are IDs, any really long response, any response that looks a bit different. So if I'm getting a bunch of 200s and one is a completely different response code, that's something I'm always going to investigate, even if I don't necessarily have permission. Xss Hunter is not part of Burp, it's a separate tool. It's something you can just sign up for. Let me grab a link for you. I can see why people have mods and stuff. They're very, very useful to have mods, I'm sure. Here is that. That is XSS Hunter if you want to have a go. How to differentiate between IDOR and information disclosure. So IDORs, in a very general term, is the ability for you to access a resource owned by another user. So information disclosure is being able to see a lot of information. Even if that's about you, that might be stuff I'm trying to use one that is an example of a bug I found because I'm not allowed to disclose. Theoretically, if you were to find a a lot of information about your user that was not displayed, that might be information disclosure. Theoretically, that's not related to any bug I've ever found before. Can you please share your Instagram or community link? Yeah, sure. Let me grab that for you. I have like a little slide. Look at this one, and I can send all the links in the chat then. Oh my god, YouTube. Here we go. Right, those are all of the links to all of my social media. Feel free to add me. It's okay. Right, thank you for the demo. One thing I would say is someone runs bug bounty programs, report wherever you find. That's what triage is for, and often data disclosure is GDPR concerned. That is absolutely correct. And as a program owner, I can, yeah. GDPR is, if you didn't know, legislation that was passed in Europe. And the way the EU works is the EU has regulations, and then the member states have to implement that into their own laws. So data protection in the EU is governed by GDPR. That also covers the UK, by the way, just because Brexit, people don't think it covers it. It absolutely covers the UK as well. And what that means is a lot of data that might a company consider public is actually private and has to be subjected to additional data protection controls. One of the great things you can do with finding like information disclosure is looking and seeing what GDPR considers privileged information. That might be everything from like whether or not we can get somebody's like contact info. Then you have like special categories as well. So GDPR is quite complex. But I would look into it for bug hunting because information disclosure is actually a really, really common bug, and GDPR has really upped the impact of that. Do you know where I can learn about advanced XSS techniques, more on context, etc.? So on my Discord, there is one of my mods, Ronnie, or Macaroni, or Roni, or Lupin. He is the XSS escape artist. He is so good at finding XSS. It is just wow. You listen to him and he's just sitting there being like bypassed, every WAF bypassed. He is a great person to speak to about advanced XSS. I am truthfully a bit of a smooth brain when it comes to XSS. XSS is not my forte. I'm not very good at it. So I highly recommend somebody else. What bugs we find by escalating IDORs? So that really depends on the context of the application. There are so many interesting bugs you can find. So one such bug was theoretically, if you ran an airport and theoretically you had an IDOR which let you change the runway length, in terms of technical impact, not that big deal. But let's say theoretically you were quite a small airport and somebody theoretically changed the runway to be quite long, and a longer runway can land larger planes. Unfortunately, if a plane arrives and then realizes the runway is far too short, it can't stop in time and, people die. Which is an example of how you really can escalate what is quite a simple IDOR into the business logic. And that's when you start to kind of get to really interesting IDORs and what they can do. API security.io, I'm going to send a link to that as well, is my favorite resource for API security at the moment. It's a newsletter and it just aggregates API security issues. They call them BOLAs like OWASP does. But this is, highly recommend it. What do we got here? Are there any jobs for freshers who have done SEH or we need experience? So I have a bit of a beef with companies requiring experience for people. In my opinion, they shouldn't. My best advice is to network and find out what the local employers in your area are interested in. OWASP is a great place to start. You likely have like local chapters that you can join, and even though we're kind of quarantined at the moment, a lot of them are doing events online, just like this one. Like, I don't live in Santa Barbara, I live in the UK, and being able to do something like this and like be kind of do an event that really I'd have to fly out for to do normally, actually has got me networking with people that I would normally network with. I actually learned GDPR for my current certification, even though I'm in the US. Excellent. GDPR should be implemented everywhere. It is some great legislation that's been passed. And if you're in the US, I really do recommend having a look at it just so you can see kind of what you should be kind of looking for, especially if you're into privacy, should be advocating for in the US. Have you ever been unsatisfied with a company responding and handled a bug report? Yes. I think everyone has a story where they've been unsatisfied with how someone's handled a bug report. You know, when we see bug reports, a lot of the time there's a huge communication issue, and it's really bad because on one end you have the company who is trying to get things through a triage process, trying to get things resolved. There's obviously like formal development practices that they need to follow. But for a bug hunter, they hear none of that. They just hear silence, and that's it. And I think there's actually quite a bad communication issue there, where bug hunters don't get updated on the status of their reports and just get left in the dark. I've waited like 6 months for a bug to be resolved. People have waited even longer than I have. There's so many like bug hunters that just get left in the dark with their bugs, and you just have to accept it. And there are some programs that are very well known for doing this to bug hunters. So I think there's a huge communication issue. And it does leave, not just me, at least tons of people unsatisfied with how reports are handled. If you find a really nasty bug outside of a bug bounty program, what's the best way to let a company know? Ooh, I wouldn't hack outside of a bug bounty program. I am very keen on not breaking the law. I know some people find things accidentally, and I tend to, you know, get up an anonymous email address, send an anonymous email and tell them to fix it. But yeah, I mean, like, with that, there's quite a large legal risk there. So I wouldn't recommend hacking stuff. There are some really great resources on responsible disclosure, though, that's not published by me. HackerOne have like stuff on responsible disclosure, and in the case of like a vendor, they'll help you get a CV and stuff as well. So I highly recommend somebody else. Any alternatives to Burp Collaborator? You know, I had an entire thread on Twitter about this, and TukTuk was, I think, the most recommended one. It does require you to have a domain, though. My LinkedIn account is broken. You can look me up. I am Katie Paxton Fear. Katie Paxton Fear. I am Googleable. You can search for me directly. There you go. I'm the only person with my name. Any resource on where to learn source code review? Blogs. There are some really good source code review hackers, and that is where I primarily learn my source code review. There was one. I will see if I can find the link. I might have to post it in my Discord because I can't remember who wrote it now off the top of my head. But when I was doing a live hacking event, I was actually involved in a bug that was code review, and they published a really, really good article on it. But it escapes me what the name of their website is at the moment. I'll have to look it up. What should be done? I think they should fix the bug. They don't have to pay out, and I think asking for payment is kind of scummy. But that is the last question I'm going to answer on this live stream because I want to go to bed. So if you have any more questions, you are, of course, always welcome to come ask me. I'm going to be in the OWASP Slack, which I realise is having issues at the moment, but you can go see me in the OWASP Slack. You can also find me here on YouTube. I do actually answer my comments, or at least the ones, like, I get a lot of comments. I try and answer most of the technical ones. You're welcome to ask me questions on Twitter. I have a Twitter. You can follow me. if you want to DM me, it's absolutely fine to DM me. I'm happy to get DMs. Just send me an at first, because I do get abuse. So if I get abuse though, yeah, it's not great. It's not great to get abuse. Now, you can also contact me on my Discord server. You can at me, and if I'm not around, you know, there's loads of helpers. My mods have been really good in helping people get started. So with that, thank you very, very much for listening to me. Please do get involved in OWASP, especially if you're into bug bounty hunting, because you know what? They're on the blue team, and you want to be like you want to get on the inside and use like your knowledge to try and learn more about how a project works. And they publish some really good resources as well. And there's a new API security top 10 that's well worth looking at. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all later.